Yeah, let me see. Welcome back. Secret House Against Tokyo-based hip-hop art and culture conversations. This is me and Jet. We out here, discussing underground, independent, avant-garde, abstract, radical, all types of hip-hop. So, today, you guys see people on the screen. Those are people we rock with. Thank you. Consider hitting the like button and subscribe. If you're already rocking with us like that, consider joining the Discord. And the Patreon. We be talking, we be doing stuff. But especially when we discuss albums like this, which is the SPOOK and SADHUGOLD collaborative project, Hell on Wheels, that I'm not sure if it just released, but it just hit streaming. 14 songs, 36 minutes. It hit streaming on the 7th of March. And I'm not sure if this is under their Not Safe for Whites title or if it's just both of their names together or whatever.
What?
But Spook is a MC artist. I don't have many notes on Spook. He's a little bit
mysterious and also hard to look up. Not a very searchable.
And SADHUGOLD is a Philly producer, beatmaker, artist. These are his beats in the background. We've reviewed an album kind of with him and the Lord Jamonti Ogbon joint they worked on. I've been a big fan of SADHUGOLD for a minute. As we do when we get into this, and this is not their first collaborative project. They've been working on stuff for a while. They had a collab back in 2020 called Niggas is Magic, Me Magic If You White, which is a reoccurring theme with the way Spook does his art and branding. It is very transgressive against, the colonial whites and whatnot. But we'll get into that a little bit later. How are you familiar with Spook?
Not first time.
Okay.
SADHUGOLD, of course, we've reviewed on the show before. We rock with SADHUGOLD. Like, I've always been a fan of his beats. For at least 3 years now, basically as long as we've been doing the show. But Spook, first time. No, absolutely nothing about him until this record.
I heard about him. I want to say I was surprised that I wasn't clocked in because I heard about him maybe last year or the year before through a conversation that people were having about Billy Woods. And somebody told me that Spook was a leftist and it was kind of difficult to find his music. In fact, it wasn't on a lot of streaming services and things like that. And also he's kind of mysterious, you know what I mean? What? Difficult. He's not a person that he uses one of those rubber hose animations from the 1930s and 40s as his character or whatever. Right. That's a blackface mantan type of appearance. And somebody told me that he was a leftist. They didn't make it clear towards what political tendency he had, if he was a Marxist, a Pan-African socialist, but they said that he leans towards that. And judging from his music and kind of the approach, he at least must be anti-colonial. you know what I mean? And I think this album speaks to that as well. So like Guys Guevara, I was just kind of waiting for a new project to really jump in and try to explore the art, because we're always so busy discussing new up and coming albums on a weekly basis that quite honestly, when I have the opportunity to listen to something that I'm not reviewing, I tend to go outside of the genre towards my jazz bag or various different genres. But I'm excited to discuss that. Discuss this album because I do feel like it has a lot of very interesting subtext and metatext and a lot of things going on in this. But I didn't walk away from it any more clear on his political ideology, other than the fact that my man is really not fucking around with a lot of white folks. Which I think can be challenging for a lot of white folks in the genre. But for the most part, all the white folks that I know that was rocking with this is you gotta listen to it I must be one of the okay ones. You know what I mean? Which is if you're a white hip hop fan, you have to deal with that all the time. If you're a Billy Woods fan, don't let no white man take your picture. It's so full. If you're a Blue fan, if you're a fan of so much of underground, independent, mainstream, even Kendrick Lamar and a lot of these cats, a lot of the black political tendency in the United States is a black radical race radicalism that doesn't necessarily have a leftist political economy take. So but let's get right into it. This album is it's a full concept album. Yep. It's profoundly and unapologetically black. Black as shit. It's black as fuck. It's a black version of a kind of non-linear spaghetti western executed as an aggressive lyrical underground experience, right?
Yes.
It's like it fits into the genre that you could possibly like compare approaches to other Sadhu Gold collaborators. You know, like it very much is like a rap project through and through, but it's also wildly different and unique in its approach, I think.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of sits quite nicely between like a Lord Jamonti Ogborn, where it's like more of a, you know, the black man is God type spiritual approach, in contrast to like the Obi-Wan, you know, Kaonabo trilogy, where you have like an extremely like outwardly like indigenous political, you know, left tendency. I think this album kind of sits somewhere in the middle of that.
I think an Obi-Wan comparison is really apt in this regard too. I imagine that Spook comes from, you know, the United States.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And so on the surface, this album is just really full of dope beats and rhymes and features, but a deeper kind of inspection of it reveals this kind of radical hijacking of America's mythologized past, rerouting of the race power dynamic in the so-called Wild West, which is mostly just romanticized and mythologized by white America as like this cowboy thing. You know, even words like buckaroo come from like Spanish cowboys, and so like it's also a bit Afrofuturist-esque in a sense, because Afrofuturism isn't just about the future. Afrofuturism is also about like challenging the foundations of, you know, history. And in this case, it's like challenging the white Western romanticizing of like the frontier and freedom. And so like Spook places a really clear emphasis on this in the lyrics and the storytelling, and even the braggadocio adheres to and pulls from this like wellspring of imagery and nomenclature from like romanticized Western history. Even the production is so full, and the production is not just Sadhu Gold. There's a lot of other producers on here. We'll get into that a little bit, but the guitar samples, the media samples, and the sonic vibes are seemingly taken exclusively from a certain section of the video store. You know,
I mean, it's even you know, the first and last track and the sort of thesis statement of the album is Boss Nigger, which is like a 1970s Fred Williamson. I thought it was Melvin Van Peebles, but I just Googled it and it was not. But, you know, obviously sweet
but that's
back,
also
like, you know,
that's also kind of where it comes from, though. It's almost centered in that, and it even goes back further, like Black B films of the Western variety, right? Like Blazing Saddles is like, you know, Western to some people, but we have new things like, you know, Django is very much a part of the cultural zeitgeist. There was that new film that had you know, Lakeith Stanfield, The Harder They Fall, I think, which I didn't watch, but there is a rich history of Black Westerns and B films that, you know, aren't that popular because of racism. You know what I mean? But like joints like with black actors like Spencer Williams and Herb Jeffries and Fred Williamson, like a lot of these shits are really dope, and the media samples that they pull and add to this are fucking great. Like some of them are like hilarious and like a damn, that was a racism type of thing, but other ones are like, damn, that's powerful as fuck, and that's really dope. And even the other producer collaborators on this album, who we have like Quelle Chris does one, Nicholas Craven, Seb Bash, Score, Evidence has a beat on here, DiBiase has a beat, Conductor has a beat, and it's like, you can tell that this wasn't just like, yo, give me a beat for this album I'm doing. Everything is so fine-tuned to meet the aesthetic values and the sonic values that Spook and Sadhu are going for, that it's just, there's not really any moments on I say the closest it gets to kind of like leaving a very hard like blaxploitation Western vibe is the DiBiase beat, and even that has like little guitar twangs that make it, that maintain the world building that they're putting on here. This album's actually spectacular for more than just the sum of its parts. I think that it really does speak to a lot of Spook's reaction to this colonized bifurcation and how he fights back against that type of shit. This is like new narrative, and it's not just like, okay, we're going to be really precise with this, but Sadhu's beats and Spook are dope at what they do. Like, I was really impressed by this shit.
I was wondering, you know, with the wealth of guest producers on this record, if like Sadhu Gold also like was doing like curation kind of you know, giving everything like a broader pass just to keep everything so cohesive, because this is a very cohesive record.
Indeed.
It's not particularly long. It's what, 40 odd minutes?
Yeah, I think so. 36 minutes. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a pretty tight 36 minutes. Especially
14 songs too.
14 songs. There's a lot of tracks on here.
Man.
It goes at a pretty quick pace. I think there's definitely an intent here to kind of keep it as a multi-act structure and you know, keep that filmic tendency even down to it, you know, kind of having this intro and outro that mirror each other on the record. If anything, I was a little surprised when it ended. Like,
a word.
Just because, like, even though I knew it was like not a particularly long listener, I definitely remember like on my first listen when the album ended, I was just like, oh,
yeah,
that's it. Oh, okay, that's it. Oh, okay, cool. Like I could have done with another 10 minutes easily.
Most definitely. In fact, like I'm like really excited to hear more Spook, because I don't know if this is like, maybe he only does this, you know what I mean? Maybe he only does that, but to me it was just like, yo, this is wild, and it's not just that too. You could tell that there's the kind of intention, like you don't just come up with these terms and nomenclature by just being like, I'm gonna make a Western shit. What can I say? I could say, you know, buckaroo, and maybe, you know what I mean? Maybe, yeah, like, but he's pulling things that are like time period exclusive. Like, he even, like, when's the last time you heard somebody refer to a Native American war bonnet? And the way that he seamlessly adds all these things and the imagery of just being on the prairie and the frontier, and it is really interesting. But on top of that, there's also seems to be a deeper inspection of it historically on songs like Occurrence at Owl Creek. That is based upon a short story by Ambrose Bierce, which is he was a Southern planter. And it's about him about to be hung by Union soldiers, and like, you know, how he managed to slip through the hangman's noose is like part of the chorus, and it's just, he does that on other songs. He has features that are rapping with him, and when you get to those songs where you've got two other MCs, like the I'm not sure how to pronounce this, SIFR, Cipher, or I'm not sure, but Midas the Beast, who was also incredibly dope on the DiBiase joint Spaghetti Shots. They're both extra, very much on theme.
Yes.
It wasn't just like, yo, give me a verse, you know what I mean? I'm gonna do a cowboy thing. It's like they're very much on theme to like, and barring out, he said some shit like click these heels in the spur of the moment. Spurs on the back of your cowboy, like, bro, so much of this is going off, and the storytelling that also Spook is able to do. He can bar out just going kind of braggadocio like, or just, you know, dope imagery type of things, but there are things on here that are stories. Gin Mill Shootout, the Coontown Billionaire. It's a story about like a billionaire coming to the town who has a bounty on his head for like killing kids or fucking with kids or some shit like that. And then Spook goes through this whole story of like shooting the glass off the top shelf, raining down on him. And then at the end, the barkeep is like, yo, you gonna pay for this shit, right? And it's just like, it's dope. You know, the quick draw skit, Holster Brothers, the beat switches, everything on this album just seems really, really thoughtful and intentional.
I think it's definitely worth examining the difference between using the aesthetic of something from popular culture and actually using that thing from popular culture as a lens to examine the culture and the society that it's from. Because there's plenty of hip-hop records where it's just like, all right, so like in this one I'm a superhero.
Well, that's
I'm an anime character, I'm a samurai, whatever.
Right.
As opposed to just like,
We've reviewed those albums
on numerous occasions. Whereas this album is very, very intent on using, you know, the Old West and also, you know, the black, you know, post-Civil War, antebellum South, slavery, etc. Like as part of the broader like lens that the album is examining contemporary America through.
In fact, as it does that, so many of the conditions and the themes and the approaches are very easily transposed to the modern day, and the approach that a lot of black folks must take in a society that's structured as ours in the U.S. And I personally, I also find it very fascinating because, as some of our listeners will know, I'm black and Filipino, but my father is a black man who was born on a black Seminole reservation. My dad was born in 1941, and his father was born on Seminole land and Seminole reservation. And the Seminoles are the only Native American tribe that didn't sign a peace treaty with the United States. They're also one of the only Native American tribes that did not force escaped slaves into another form of indentured servitude. They're allowed to live on the land. They're allowed to be with the women, and also some of the greatest heroes in colonized America are cats like Chief John Horse, who led those people in a war against Hamilton all the way across into Oklahoma, where a lot of them live now, and into Mexico. And for my father, who was a black Seminole, even as time changed, like growing up, the only things in my father's house were black leaders. We had Malcolm, Martin. He had a little picture of all types of people. That's the point. And Native Americans. So it was a big part of my upbringing. I wasn't, I lived with my biological father till I was 5, and then my mother later, but I continued getting these type of jewels from my father. And like, even in that narrative of the black Seminoles, the Seminoles still turned on the Negro when they were trying to get that money from the United States. And you see these type of things happening today where, ADOS is trying to
blood quantum
bifurcate
their way into
getting reparations. And my father really distanced us from the Seminole tribe after that, because he was like, bro, like, I'm more Seminole than some of these little Seminole kids, you know what I mean, that are these red Seminole kids. And it was just like, to me, hearing this narrative is something that's really dope, but I feel like it's also a deeper critique than what you get when you just have like black people in Western regalia and shit. Like there's
black
clearly
cowboy,
there's clearly an intention here, and clearly an intention in Spook's art that is radically against the hegemony of white Western centric Western centric liberalism. And I fuck with this. This is, if not sonically satisfying to you, it should at least be like intriguing to you for what is actually going on here. And it's not just undertones. Like, this is overt straight up shit right in your face. This is one of the more interesting albums of the year. I had the similar feeling when we listened to Calnabo by Obi-Wan. It's phenomenal. And the beats, goddamn, these beats.
Yeah, I mean, we haven't touched on it, but this album's also fun. Like,
yeah,
it's a fun listen. Like, it's got a lot going on tonally. Yeah. Some of the beats really bang. There's some great MCing on here.
Yeah. I think Spook is hilarious, bro. Like the shit is called NSFW, not safe for work, not safe for whites, bro. Like, the other album they did was that shit called Niggas is Magic, Meme Magic if you white. Like, yo, like, there's even the shit that goes on here, like Dirty Darty. Like, it's just like dope. It's fun. And it does have it's not like super serious. It's some of the shit is just dope. They put a bullet through his war bonnet. Fisticuffs amid. I like the Colt because it's more honest. And it's just it has that kind of like, a lot of Western films are also taken from Japanese style films, right? Especially, you're a Kurosawa. Yeah, we don't want to do the history or whatever. Yeah. But there's also something just genuinely intriguing about that solo figure who is an outlaw against the world. And there's something funny about that shit, especially when it's a black person getting revenge on a bunch of fucking bozos. I fuck with this. This is great to me. This is one of the most intriguing albums that I've heard in a while, and one of the dopest listens that I've heard all year. This immediately goes on my list of favorites of the year.
There we go.
Yeah. You got, I don't know how much more we have to say about this.
Yeah, you want to go into like favorites?
Yeah.
I mean, for me, probably Occurrence at Owl Creek, Dirty Darty, Doesn't sound cool when I say it with my accent.
Yeah. You all right. We'll be fine.
Great Train Rundown.
Yeah, I like Dirty Darty, Spaghetti Shots, Murder in the Monsoon. Murder in the Monsoon's dope. He's just out for revenge, and it's produced by Evidence. It's out for revenge in a rainstorm. So hard. Amos, don't let me die in no white folks town. Amos. Oh, bro. Hold on. Let me while we bullshit, let me just kind of put it on just a little bit. So we, you know what I mean, sprinkle a little in here so you guys get a little bit of the joint. I'm gonna put on Dirty Darty immediately because that.
Come on out of there, nigga. Yeah.
What does it say? It's the legend of nigga. Right? Some shit like that. Like,
Lost cars get raided, blazing saddle bastards, costing bangers. Hit the vaulted house and picking up a couple scarlet ladies. Just for the night, he trying to whitewash his sins away. Throw the baby out with the bathwater.
yo, he's ill. Murder in the Monsoon. You see, it's got like, it's got all these values of like westerns and you know, like they pull from samples only from that part of the video store, that part of the section of the video store. But it's also not just like, when you hear it, you're not like, oh, this is some western shit.
Right,
you really
right.
got to kind of like be like, oh, okay, that's why it sound like that, because it comes from that and it's evoking this type of.
Even though we can barely see through the thick tension, there he goes in the distance, sitting with his 6 henchmen. Fuck a stakeout. We gon' pull up on him, Swift pinched him. On his knees, Roy was crying like a bitch, nigga. With his
Yeah, I don't know, bro. I swear I'll be toxic like that. When somebody crying like a bitch, nigga, I'm like, yeah. That's just hilarious to me. Yeah, but like even this joint, right? This DiBiase beat. It sounds kind of like, okay, this is getting away from it a little bit, but that
Little slide guitar and stuff, yeah.
Yeah.
I left him stinking in the brook, said the letter to his miss.
I'm just going through.
Dumb. He'll swing for sure.
Yeah, it's really well
The
put together.
DiBiase beat, like that track really reminds me of like some Big Just type shit.
Okay.
You know, I mean the voice is not too dissimilar, but even just that like hybridity of like, you know, that electronic wonky kind of beat sound to it that characterizes a lot of Big Just's work, with just some, like really like high level like creative lyricism and like a dusty sample, like but that, you know, tasteful minimalism as well going on sonically. Like we haven't really talked too much about the album sonically, but I mean that's like, it's like the if the album didn't maintain this cohesion, it wouldn't have the same effect to me. Yeah.
If it even broke out of that, like, you know, for a minute, it wouldn't have the same effect for me. But the entire album maintains this kind of, they did some really incredible world building and just creating I'm not saying it's like they rap about like, okay, well now we're on this part of the map and go to another part of the map, but it keeps you situated. It's a whole project. You know what I mean? Like it's a whole project. It's not like, oh, let me go peep this one track. It's kind of like when you hear it, it's just like, okay, we taking this ride through this right now. Everything, like any beat that you jump to is going to have this kind of like, yeah, everything you get to. Hold on, let me just jump. The album covers L2. I like what he's doing with you know what I mean, the blackface Spook. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. I'm rocking with Spook, man. He's wild. Somebody on Reddit was like, yo, I'll send you his catalog because it's like not online if you want to peep it and shit. You know what I mean? Some real peer-to-peer person, because they could see that I was a leftist and making good points, perhaps, is maybe what was happening. Or it could have been Spook, just like, yo, here goes my shit. But I think I told you about that a long time ago. Yeah. But like, yeah, I'm just, yeah, man. Shout out, if that person's watching, I appreciate you. Thank you, because I think, you know, when I listen to hip hop, as a Marxist and a leftist myself, who understands why there's a lot of antisocial themes in rap music and where it comes from, and also, you know, some of those people are my cousins and my people or whatever. The thing that really piques my ear and makes me more intrigued about an artist is when there is a different type of depth that separates them from a lot of the other voices. And I feel like I'm getting that from Spook. And of course, Sadhu Gold is phenomenal as well. But you know, an artist like Spook speaks to me. That's why we're fans of Noname. You know what I mean? She's one of the only voices out there that is pointedly socialist and actually saying the shit. Yeah. She's not shooting subs. She's really saying the shit. Billy Woods, you know, Def Sound. There's a lot of artists like Soul is doing it, but like, yeah. At the same time, you could still make music that is challenging, confrontational, and part of the cogs of the revolutionary machinery. And it don't got to be corny. It don't even have to be like socialism is dead. We gonna do it. So like this to me is radical black art. This is the black radical tradition, and he might not even be on a shit like that. But that's what I'm getting here. So yeah, I fucking the legend of.
I'll show that.
We're gonna go out to this. All the people on the screen right now. Patrons.
Hey.
Yeah.
Hog tiger gang up, cage him up and take him to the hangman.
I want to hear that. Hold on, man.
Who the true varmint? Your crew get disarmed, the noose through on him.
Who the true varmint? Your crew get disarmed through the noose on him? Come on, bro.
Through the smoke, they call a cucumber.
My man said varmint.
Somebody warn the West.
If he sets one foot on this property, nigga, we'll game.
The legend of niggas.
That's the shit right there.